This is Kathy Dam, and I'm going to run through a one sample t-test, ghetto style. I have a cup holding up my phone as I've written this. So I just wanted to make sure that if you wanted to see an example fully done, that you had a chance to see it. So I'm going to run through this example and email me if you have questions. So Dr. Dam wanted to know if students who watch her YouTube videos get better grades than typical. She read several studies that said additional studying leads to better grades. She asked 36 students to watch her YouTube videos. They scored an average of 77.8 with a standard deviation of 12, on the exams. Okay. She compares this to the known average in her class of 75. So now we want to do the 6 steps to inferential statistics. So we want to do the first step, which is to ask the research question. So, does watching Dam's YouTube videos improve grades? Now, why do I say improve grades? That's because I had research up here that said several studies say additional studying leads to better grades. So that's the justification I have for doing the one-tailed test. So, step 2, I want to do the null and the alternative. So the alternative, written out in words, would be watching Dam's YouTube videos, improves grades. This is hard to write while watching through your phone. And then the null would be watching Dam's YouTube videos does not improve grades. If I were to write this out in symbols instead of words, you can choose either or. This would look like mu Dam, mu YouTube videos from Dam have better grades than mu, and then the null would be mu YouTube from Dam less than or equal to mu. All right, so now we have to define our rejection region. So remember that we have our degrees of freedom are going to be n minus 1. So we had 36 participants in our study. So that means our degrees of freedom is going to be 36 minus 1. My degrees of freedom are 35. So now I want to define my rejection region. I'm just going to draw it because I'm a drawer. It's going to be a one-tailed upper-tailed test because we did improve grades. So it wouldn't be two-tailed, it'd be one-tailed. And now I have to define the number, the critical T, that defines my rejection region. Now the T-table I gave you jumps from 30 to 40. So they don't actually have the degrees of freedom of 35. So we'll round down to 30. We're going to be more conservative. So if you look at your T-table, I was looking at the wrong side. I was looking at the two-tailed side, common mistake. So if you look at your T-table on the one-tailed side for degrees of freedom of 30, I'm looking at my computer screen. We have a 1.697. This is like the most old school way of making a video. So I have 1.697 or higher, and I make sure that I clarify that's the rejection region. Now we're going to do the math. So for step 4, we're going to use the formula x bar minus mu divided by s divided by the square root of n. So that's going to come out from our story. Hopefully we can see both here. So x bar is from the sample. See, she took a sample of 36 students and got an average of 77.8 and a standard deviation of 12. These are all the sample pieces here. Then they compare that to a known average of 75. So that's our mu. So that means that we're going to have T equals 77.8 minus 75 divided by 12 divided by the square root of 36. So remember, I give you the advice so you don't make a math error. It's to solve from the bottom up. So we're going to first do 12 divided by the square root of 36. Make sure you know how to use your calculator. In this case, you might have memorized that that's 6. Then we can do minus 75. Now, 12 divided by 6, you can use your calculator, or if you're like me, you chose numbers that work nicely, I know that's 2. And then we have the 77 77.8 minus 75. So now we can use your calculator or mental math and do the numerator is 2.8 divided by 2. I should have left more room on my page. And that comes out to be 1.4. So my t-score is 1.4. So you can see my rejection region is defined by 1.697. So I take that 1.4 and put it in my picture. It's going to be right in here somewhere, 1.4. So looking at this, I have to now decide if I'm going to reject the null or fail to reject the null. It clearly is not in my rejection region. So I'm going to fail to reject the null. So for step 5, I say fail to reject the null. And now I have to make my conclusion. So remember, you always go with the null unless you reject it. In this case, I haven't rejected it, so I can actually take this sentence and put it down here. So for step 6, I finally conclude that watching Dam's YouTube videos, you can spell, does not, I'm trying to see if you can see my handwriting, improve grades. So, of course, I made these numbers up, and you're watching a YouTube video now, so we may be wrong. But this, in the messy way, is here's the prompt. Then we have all 6 steps, here. And I think the part that some students were looking for was to do the math again. So again, remember my main tip is to start from the bottom up. You should be able to solve in using PEMDAS and all of your rules. However, I find students tend to make mistakes doing that. So if you just solve in bits and pieces upward, you should be okay. All right, send me emails if you have any questions.